Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours. Today, we're going to hear Valerie's.
On the encore, Bon Jovi came out, and he was wearing one of those bicycle riding caps. And then Steven Tyler, they're singing together. Steven Tyler took it off, and he was wearing it. And he looked, at the end of the song, he took off the hat, and he looked down at the audience, and he looked right at me. And I swear he made eye contact with me. We were looking at each other for what seemed like a minute, but probably was 3 seconds. And he whipped the hat right at me. And I didn't think that I would have to move or jump or scurry to get it, because it was clear that he was throwing it at me and wanted me to have it. And out of nowhere, some big tall guy came and grabbed it right as I almost caught it and took it.
Valerie, thanks for coming on the show. We usually start with just an introduction. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll get into the music piece of it in a minute.
Sure. My name is Valerie, and I grew up, I was a teenager in the 80s, so music had a very important impact on our lives. I have memories of my friends and I taking our bikes to the local record store and spending a lot of time there looking for what we wanted and going back home and listening to our albums. I am a teacher right now, and I noticed that I teach 8th grade, and a lot of the 8th graders definitely like 80s music. And even the obscure musicians, somebody brought up Whitesnake the other day, and I would never have thought that a 14-year-old would know that band Whitesnake. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. And so when you went to the record store, what kind of albums were you looking for, or what in particular, what were you buying at that time?
Well, I think one of my most clear memories of driving our little 10-speeds to our local record store was called Beautiful Day in LaGrange, and was to get Tom Petty's album, the one with the Waiting song on it. I can't remember. It's not Damn the Torpedoes. I think it was the second album.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I definitely wanted that album. And so I had a mission that time. And I remember all of us, it was a tiny little record store that was long and thin. It was in one of those buildings that was probably built in the 1920s. And so it was just like this long row of albums. And we would just spend hours kind of looking. Sometimes you might find something new. Sometimes you had a mission like I did this time. And I remember a friend of ours got the Bruce Springsteen album, the one with Born to Run on it. And we went back to his house. I remember it was kind of difficult riding your bicycle, your 10-speed, while holding an album, but we managed. And we went to his house, and we would just take turns listening to each other's albums that we bought. And we would read the lyrics. We would look at the cover, the front, the back. We would always be delighted if there were words inside, or the words on the album sleeve. And we would read those, and we would just kind of talk about the music, and put on the next album. And that was really my most vivid memory of going there and having a clear mission, and then what we did afterwards. And that kind of set the tone. That was at the beginning of summer. And then I just remember less clearly of all the other times we did that. And sometimes maybe we'd hear something new and we'd be like, oh, we've got to go get that. And on our bikes, we went pedaling over to LaGrange, Beautiful Day record store.
Cool. So some of these albums then that you and your friends bought, did you eventually then see these bands live at some point?
Definitely. We saw Tom Petty. live. And even back in those days, I mean, this was before Bruce Springsteen made it big with Born in the USA. His tickets were pretty hard to find, so I didn't get to see him until later. But Tom Petty was pretty easy to see at the time. I mean, it's still very popular, but one of my friends managed to get tickets, so we saw Tom Petty, and he was just as amazing live as he was on his albums, you know. And when you're younger, I don't think you really understand how much energy is at a live show. But by the time I did get to see Tom Petty, I did know that I had seen a couple concerts. And the very first concert I ever saw was Peter Gabriel, and it was Shock the Monkey. And my friend and I would listen to that album in her basement. That kind of looked, you know, like it was a relic from the 1950s, but that's where the record player was, and that's where we would play that album. So shortly thereafter, I got to see Peter Gabriel, and I was pretty blown away. I mean, that's an amazing first concert to see as a kid, and that's where I first realized, wow, it's just different. You can't really explain how much energy there is at a concert. And then I was very fortunate to have my friends had gotten David Bowie tickets the very next day. So, and they were pretty good seats. So we saw David Bowie at what was then called the Rosemont Horizon. So to see Peter Gabriel at Poplar Creek on, I don't know what day of the week, it was summertime, at a place called Poplar Creek in Hoffman Estates. It's no longer there anymore. And we were in the lawn, and one of the parts we liked about it is the sun would set behind the theater, and you'd be watching, kind of getting ready for the show while the sun is setting, and we called it the Poplar Creek sunset after that, because it was just so beautiful. And then the next day, seeing David Bowie at Rosemont Horizon, I mean, two incredible performances back to back. And I definitely realized at the time how lucky I was, and how amazing both performances were. And I remember driving home after David Bowie and talking about, because only one of my friends had gone to see Peter Gabriel, so there was only two of us in the car who had seen both concerts, and we were kind of comparing and contrasting the show, both amazing, but definitely that being my first and then second show the next day, there's just no words to explain it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. That's happened to me, where, you know, you buy these tickets so far in advance, and then somebody asks you, you know, a month or two later, hey, you want to go see so-and-so? And you're like, yeah, sure. Okay, I'll buy tickets. And then next thing you know, you're going to two concerts, you know, one right after the other. So that's, it does happen every once in a while. Mm-hmm. You also, in some of the previous conversations, you'd mentioned, you were at an Aerosmith show, I believe it was, where, did Steven Tyler?
I saw many Aerosmith shows back in the day.
Okay, yeah. So, but the one with Steven Tyler, didn't he? He tossed something to you or something.
Oh, yes. It was when this show, my friends and I had been, when Aerosmith kind of cleaned up a little bit, and they had their hit with Walk This Way with Run DMC. So they kind of had a second,
yeah, they're like a resurgence in popularity.
Exactly, a resurgence in popularity. Yeah. They were clean and sober, and I think taking life a little bit more seriously. And we were really kind of impressed by them, and we saw them maybe 5-6 times. And one particular show was at a place called Alpine Valley in Troy, Wisconsin, I think.
Yeah, East Troy, Wisconsin.
East Troy, Wisconsin. And
yep.
It's pretty far drive, but you know, when you're younger, those things don't really matter to you as much as they do when you're older. And Guns N' Roses had opened up for them. And I remember because they were clean, or Aerosmith was clean and sober, they were not serving any alcohol, or they had Alpine Valley not serve any alcohol at this show. We're like, what the heck? Just, but
yeah.
Guns N' Roses put on an amazing show, and then Aerosmith did as well. And we had splurged on the concert tickets. We wanted to see them up close, and we thought, okay, what the heck? Let's get some really good seats. And we wound up paying $50, which we thought was an outrageous amount of money at the time. It was probably 80, gosh, I don't really know, maybe 88. I'm not sure on the year, but we thought that was outrageous, but it did get us like fifth row center. So we were really close. And Aerosmith was up there singing, Steven Tyler's doing his thing. And on the encore, Bon Jovi came out. He was wearing one of those bicycle riding caps. And Steven Tyler, they're singing together. Steven Tyler took it off and he was wearing it. And he looked, at the end of the song, he took off the hat and he looked down at the audience and he looked right at me. And I swear he made eye contact with me. We were looking at each other.
Okay.
For what seemed like a minute, but probably was 3 seconds. And he whipped the hat right at me. And I didn't think that I would have to like move or jump or scurry to get it, because it was clear that he was throwing it at me and wanted me to have it. And out of nowhere, some big tall guy came and grabbed it right as I almost caught it and took it.
Like
and everybody,
he was behind you, right?
I don't know. He seemed, in my memory, he seemed to come out of nowhere, like this big hand. He was really tall, I remember, with crazy, it was the late 80s. He had crazy big wild hair. And everyone was saying, let her have it, let her have it. And he didn't say one word. He just took it and walked away. That's what I remember. So I was pretty bummed about that. I was not happy.
Yeah, that's not cool, bro, right? And then like in our previous chats, you'd mentioned too that while seeing, I believe, the Psychedelic Furs, you like high-fived or did something with Richard Butler, the lead singer, Richard Butler.
So our musical tastes, I think in the 80s, you just kind of, I don't think anybody was really stuck in one genre per se. There were so many different genres of music. So yes, while me and my friends liked Aerosmith, I also really liked the Psychedelic Furs, which obviously was alternative and considered new wave at the time. And I think when they first came out, they considered themselves more punk, but I would classify them more as new wave. And they were probably, I know they were my favorite band. And one friend of mine and I got to see them, I believe it was at the Riviera. And
the Riviera in Chicago, the Riviera
in Chicago.
Theater.
Yes. And we, didn't get there early. So we kind of had to finagle our way up, moving through the crowd. And back in those days, I don't think people got too rude. Nobody ever really hassled us when we were doing that. And we got right in front of the stage back when you could stand right in front of the stage and kind of reach out and touch the performer's legs almost. Not that we did that. But Richard Butler, the lead singer of the Psychedelic Furs, he still does this move where he kind of crouches down. He crosses his legs and crouches down and puts his arm, waves his arm back and forth as he's singing. And at this point, that's close enough to touch the audience. And I reached up and I was like, okay. And I grabbed his arm or his wrist, and I got to hold on to Richard Butler's wrist for a little bit.
Wow, that's cool.
So as a young girl, was very exciting for me. I thought he was amazing, and kind of like the shows always had kind of a haunting quality to them. And there always seemed to be some sort of like he really wanted to connect with the audience, but still remained aloof. I don't know how he manage to do that, but he did. So you left feeling like you had a connection with him and the band.
That's really cool. Yeah. What year was that? Do you remember approximately? Was that
That might have been 1986
86? Yeah.
or 85. I
Okay.
saw them a lot too, so they kind of all run together.
And you've just seen them recently
Yes,
at another Chicago venue, the Aragon Ballroom. And
yes.
what was kind of the same or different or?
Yeah, it was just in this past July 2022. I think, we've all gotten a lot older. But I consider myself very fortunate that my favorite band from my teenage years still performs. They're still together. I mean, a lot of really, it's just the singer and his brother. They're the main part of the band, and the other band members kind of have come and gone. The horn player they have has been pretty consistent over the last few years, but I feel very fortunate that they still perform and still are interested in putting on a very good show. I think they're pretty loyal to their fans, and the energy was still there. I feel like they're far less aloof, like they're trying to kind of put on that air of mystery. Back in the 80s and in the 90s, there was like lots of smoke, like lots of lights, where you can't really see him. He appears like he's walking out in fog. A lot more drama. And I feel like now he just comes out and puts on a really good show. He sings, but the connection to the audience, I feel is still very much there. And at some point towards the end of the show, he was like kind of laughing, which I feel like he never smiled back in his old days. It was all very serious, and he kind of layered in this shroud of mystery, and he would smoke, and now he doesn't smoke, and goofing around with the horn player and laughing, and they're visibly joking around with each other, kind of pushing each other, but still wanting to connect with the audience and making a lot of eye contact. And we were up like right there next to the stage. Of course, now there's a barrier and you can't touch them at all. And there's security right in front, but still I feel like I'm very fortunate to be able to see them and make these comparisons and grow old with them.
Yeah, that's cool. I know what you mean. Like, you mentioned the Riviera nightclub, theater, you could put your arm right on the stage. Now, at the Aragon, there's got to be at least 10 feet from the barricade to the stage, and the crowd is removed from getting anywhere near the performer, which, it's kind of a bummer. I guess I can see why they do that maybe nowadays. I don't know. I
could see
it's
the
different.
Performer not wanting people touching me, because back in the day you can kind of reach out and touch their leg or whatever. And, but on the flip side, now with your phone, you could, being right up close like that, we got some pretty good video of whatever we wanted to take video of. I mean, back in before iPhones, they would not allow you to bring a camera in. They would take it from you. Or if they saw you taking pictures, you could get yourself kicked out of the show. And now it's, they're posing if they see you taking a picture, they're posing. And we got a couple videos of entire songs, which is kind of nice to go back and look at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read like some artists complaining that everybody's watching the concert through their phone. But I know like it is nice to take a few pictures or some video. I kind of liken it to, going to some like a kid's birthday party. I mean, you usually take pictures or film everybody singing happy birthday, but you're still in the event. You're still there. It's not like, you're watching it on TV or something.
I think we were careful to kind of put the phone up, but still watch the show in person. I don't want to see the show through the lens of my camera. I want to see it live.
Right, exactly. Sparingly, for me, it's nice to go back then because sometimes you don't remember years later some of the specific details, but you can review the video and the pictures and kind of get you back in that space on some of the particulars, even the
Can you imagine
venue.
if we had iPhones in the 80s and it had all the video from all of those concerts we saw?
Yeah, it's a shame that yeah, I know the Grateful Dead, always would let their fans tape at least audio, and then the fans would exchange these bootleg recordings and stuff, which I wish more bands would have let people do that, because now some bands it's very hard to find any kind of recording of the performance on a particular tour, and if you do, the quality, it's some person who was on the down low trying to record this
And
show.
not get caught.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I recently found not just audio, but a video as well of a Psychedelic Furs show that was the same show that I had seen, but recorded in Germany. And I watched that on YouTube, thinking that was pretty, that's about as close as I'm going to get at seeing what I saw back in those days. And it was, I think it was done like they knew it was being recorded, so it was pretty professional. But seeing how young they looked, and like, wow, yeah, I remember, he was pretty consistent in the moves he would make. So that was kind of nice to see. And of course, if you had your own video that you took during that your own personal experience, it would be even better. And I know that we came across just an audio recording of U2 at UIC Pavilion, I believe it was, of just audio of U2 singing or playing there 1983, perhaps.
I think it's an 85 recording, 85. Which, people listening, you should definitely check that out. UIC, March, I don't know, 23rd, 25th, something like that. But it's an incredible recording. And, it's just fun to listen to.
Before he got, because I think when they performed at Live Aid, that really, they were getting big. They were definitely gaining traction, but the Live Aid show really put them on the map. So that was just before that happened. And he was such a strong singer and such a strong band. And just listening to the audio is pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're on fire. That was on the Unforgettable Fire tour, I think. Perhaps, I don't know. Those are some very cool stories. And you guys would you'd go with your friends. Somebody would drive usually
to a concert.
Yeah, where you wouldn't get dropped off. Like maybe one of your friends would drive, or how would that work?
Sometimes it was an older sibling that was nice enough to drive us. Okay. I remember when we saw Prince, we had a dilemma junior year of high school. One friend group had concert tickets to see Prince, who was already huge at the time, with Purple Rain, and he was playing at a big place called Rosemont Horizon. Or another friend group had tickets to see U2, not so well known at this time, and playing in a smaller venue. I can't remember if it was Aragon Ballroom, or I don't remember, but a smaller arena. That was a really tough decision as a 16, 17-year-old kid at the time. And we chose Prince. And, I'll never know if that was the right decision, because I never got to see Prince again. I mean, he blew us away as, being 16, 17-year-old girls. Like, the show was, we were just, our minds were blown in the car. I don't think we were totally geeked out. But I still wonder, I'm sure that U2 would have put on an equally good show. But I remember for Prince, her mom, a friend with mom's mom, dropped us off in her station wagon. There's maybe 6 girls, and she waited there until after the concert and picked us up. And I think there was a lot of eye rolling because we were so excited and so geeked out. And she was kind of making fun of us in a way, like, oh my God, you guys. And, but there was just no way to convey like what we just saw Prince do. I mean, the way he played the guitar, his guitar solos. I mean, it was loud. Even as a young kid, my ears were ringing for a good chunk of time afterwards. And there's just no words to describe what that was like.
Yeah, I'm sure it was quite incredible and probably wise of your friend's mom to stay in the parking lot. I couldn't imagine leaving and then driving back 2 hours later and trying to park it after the concert was over would be, crazy. But that's nice when a parent will do that. Not, my friends, not all the parents would even want to let them go to a concert, let alone drive them to the venue. So, very, very cool. Any other things you might want to add, Valerie? You've obviously bought some concert shirts along the way. Do you still have any of those old shirts?
I do. Actually, I have my Purple Rain Prince shirt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I still have that one that I bought at that concert. I do remember being impressed because Prince wore his little high-heeled boots, and he was on top of a speaker playing his guitar solo towards the end of the concert. And he jumped off that speaker, and it was not a short jump. And I remember we kind of went gasping because we couldn't believe he was jumping off the speaker in his high-heeled boots. We're like, oh my gosh, is he going to make it? But yeah, I have that concert t-shirt from that show because, like I said, that was the only time I ever saw Prince. And a Psychedelic Furs t-shirt. And this was from maybe Mirror Moves. And I saw this last time I saw them in July, they were selling that. Oh no, it was, I do think it was Mirror Moves. I can't remember. But they still had that same concert. Oh, it was from Talk Talk Talk. That's what it was. And They were selling that same t-shirt at this last show. And that, of course, that was in the later 80s. So I had to get like an extra large because that's how you were wearing your t-shirts back in those days. But yep, I still have that concert t-shirt. And lots of ticket stubs for sure.
Okay, so you save your ticket stubs as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, I do the same thing.
We would carry them around in our purses for a while, just kind of as a memory, like, oh, I don't know, it was something we kind of did.
Yeah, I would take a thumbtack and put them on my stereo cabinet, which was made out of wood, and paste them up there. And look at them before I would go to sleep at night and just kind of remember the concert and stuff. So it's a nice token. So after, like, okay, in the purse, then you didn't want to lose it. Okay. And you might have 3 concert tickets in there. Then I would put them in the mirror on my vanity in my bedroom. Neat. Yeah, I love, every once in a while looking at my concert tickets, and then I'm sometimes alarmed when I can't really remember a particular show, and I have to call one of my friends who I think, based on the musical taste, would have been there with me, and they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, "Oh, okay," yeah. And then they fill in the details. But well, thanks for being on Seeing Them Live, Valerie. Any closing comments you'd like to make about anything in particular, live music, now in the modern age, so to speak?
Yeah, I think, when you become a parent, obviously seeing a concert isn't probably on your list of priorities to do. And who can stay out that late when you're going to be up at 5, 6 in the morning. So we kind of took a hiatus of seeing concerts. And right before the shutdown, the COVID shutdown happened, my husband and I got to see the Lumineers. And we kind of knew, well, it was the January, I believe, right before the shutdown. And we're like, we don't know if this is safe. But we had the tickets. We bought the tickets in the summer. We're like, this is kind of a big band, and we were ready to see them. And just going back and being in a crowd of people who all love or maybe not everybody, but most people are loving the band as much as you, and being in an arena with that kind of energy, it was like, okay, we realize we need to we need to start seeing concerts again, because it really is, there's nothing like it. Seeing the band up close, or even, I mean, we had decent seats. We weren't that close, but when the band was singing the song called Angela, the lead singer did come down and went into the audience and went up on his right, up into the audience. And we were thinking, well, maybe he's going to come up on our side too, which was we were on the opposite side. And he did. And he's singing the whole time. And he came up by us, and maybe a couple feet away, maybe 5 feet away, and he's singing the song, and we got a recording of it. And he's wearing his velvet blue jacket over this shirt, and kind of being I mean, here we are, grown adults, and we were still completely starstruck and pretty moved by the whole experience itself. So I think the lesson we learned was we need to start seeing more concerts.
Yes, I agree. As you get older and with work and family, it's harder to get out and do the kinds of things you did when you were, 20 years old.
Right.
And the band doesn't come on till 11 o'clock at night, for instance. You can't really, I guess you can, but it's a rough next morning, with the family and stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, those are some pretty cool, authentic stories. Enjoyed chatting with you. And maybe we can do this again sometime in the future.
Sure, I would love to.
All right. Thanks, Valerie.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
See you. Bye.
Bye.